Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of The Hot Seat. I am your hostess with the Moses P. Coffee Brown, and we are fired up, excited, and ecstatic to introduce to you the international best-selling authors of the brand new book, Parenting Teens, The Tug of War to Adulthood. Y'all show some love for these brand new international best-selling thought leaders for this brand new book. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in, welcome in. As you guys are coming in, go ahead and spread the wealth on your platforms. Let other people know that you're here hanging out with us tonight for the official launch party, virtual launch party for the brand new book, Parenting Teens, The Tug of War to Adulthood. I am so honored and excited to be in the presence of such phenomenal thought leaders. And for the first time in the history of our publishing house, we have our first published international author, Latrice Lindsay. So congratulations to you, Latrice. Big ups for the first international best-selling published author with the publishing house. So we are so excited about that on tonight. So welcome in, everybody. We're going to do some soft introductions. We're going to get the party started. Guys, go ahead and share. All of the authors will be sharing to their communities on their pages so that you guys can tap in. They're going to be sharing, letting their communities know that they're here live with us. And so we're going to get the party started. So welcome in YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and of course, Instagram. So welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of the Hot Seat Authors Edition. So we're going to start with the soft introductions as everybody begins to share on their other platforms with their communities. And we're going to get this party started. Lady Victoria, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure to be here tonight.
Go ahead, introduce yourself.
I am Lady Victoria. I am an etiquette coach and an etiquette educator. This is my second time working with P. Koffe on a book project, and I am happy to be here to share a part of my story in the book, Parenting Teens, The Tug of War to Adulthood, on tonight.
Woo, woo. Next up, we got Jason Williams in the building. Jason, introduce yourself for these people.
As she said, my name is Jason Williams. Just a New York young man, just over now in the Pacific Northwest, just trying to do everything that God has put in my hands to do. So, this has now made me a 3-time Amazon best-selling author, as well as a musician, a founder of a band, and also a founder of ministry. So, I just do what God gave me to do.
Awesome. Sound like you just gave a testimony, Jason. I ain't right, Jason. I ain't right. Gregory Bloomfield, welcome in. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's up, everybody? Gregory Bloomfield. I'm originally from Toronto, Canada, and I currently live just south of Boston, Massachusetts, and Attleboro, Massachusetts, which is actually closer to Providence, Rhode Island. But I'm a New England guy, New England Canadian guy. Parents are from Jamaica. I am an accountant. I'm a CPA. And I didn't write anything about accounting in the book. I have other passions, and one of them is writing, music. I'm a preacher as well. I actually had to preach this weekend for Father's Day at a church near New Hampshire. And I have 2 kids. I'm a single dad. I have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old, so I know about teens. And that's why I was in the book. So, yeah, it's an exciting experience. And this is my very first time being a best-selling author of anything. So, and it's a great experience. And thank you all for the experience. Thank you.
Awesome. Jason Tibbs, what up?
Greetings and salutations. Jason Thibodeau, hailing all the way from Houston, Texas. Yeah, man. Man of many things. Working insurance, engineer, actor, working actor, I should say. Working actor, both movies and stage play and stuff. And just, yeah, several times, as my other Jason said, Amazon bestsellers. So, like I said, just here to write and enjoy and spread the love and knowledge.
That's what's up. And again, guys, for the first time in the history of our publishing house, we have hit the international waters by way of an author. We've always had our books to hit all seven continents, but we have officially hit the Canadian territory with an international author for the first time ever. Latrice Lindsay. Latrice, welcome. Introduce yourself, dear.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Hi to everyone who's joining today and in future showings. My name is Latrice Lindsay. As you heard, I am an international health and wellness coach and a life coach. I specialize in mindset and transforming the mind, body, and spirit. And I could now place under my banner international author, thanks to this amazing project and amazing team of coaches and writers. And I'm again outside of Canada, originally from Toronto, but moved into a smaller city where I feel more, content, where I can do, what visionaries do, create. Thank
I
you for
know
having
that's
me.
right. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And last but certainly not least, my right hand business partner, the VP of DFG Publishing House. She is the VP of our communications team. Her name is Gracia Collins Rich. Gracia is, I want to say, a 10, 12, 15, 85, 97 best time author.
8. Only 8 now.
Oh, only 8.
Okay.
Oh,
Only
only 8. Oh, only 8. Okay. All right.
So good
Introduce
evening,
yourself, lady.
everyone. I'm Gracia Rich. I am an author, editor, a writing coach. I am also civil litigation and criminal defense paralegal. I'm so happy to be a part of this book. I'm a mother of 4, 3 boys, 1 girl, so I know a great deal about parenting teens, and I was super excited to be a part of this book.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, you guys already know who I am, but I'll introduce myself for those that have never seen me before. My name is Coach P. Coffee Brown. I'm here in the great state of Texas by way of Houston. I hail from Detroit, Michigan, and I've been all over the nation, residing in various places in the US of A. The only country that I've been to, just a little known coffee fact, the only country that I've been to outside of America is Canada. So that's a little known coffee fact. People are like, you never left. No, I've been to Canada. So I have left the United States, just haven't gone very far. I actually love Canada. It's like the cleanest place in the world, I think. Like literally, it's super clean. But other than that, I am a international anthologist, and this is our 7th project in the company, our 6th international best-selling project so far. We've published over 50 authors in the publishing house thus far, and looking forward to another 50, another 100, 200, whatever we're blessed with. So we're excited to be here again with you guys for another dynamic publication. I do editing. I also do all kinds of stuff by way of helping people to be able to get the thought out of their head into the pages of a book and published all over the world. And I am also a content creator. So I do create all of the content that has come through our publishing house so far. I actually have created the vast majority of it. Gracia has stepped in with me to help me for this particular project. As a matter of fact, we started putting this project together about 3 years ago. And so it's been a long time coming. We started it and we just put it on the back burner. We never went back to it. But one day when my daughter graduated from high school last year, I was like, I made it. I made it. My children are all graduated from high school, got them all out as virgins. And I was like, this is phenomenal. Their dad passed in 2011. And so I was just like, wow, how am I going to do this? And by the grace of God, we did it. We made it. And so once that happened, I told Gracia it's time to take it off the shelf. put it into some words and bless the world with our stories about parenting. So, again, it's an honor and a privilege to be in the presence of such great individuals. And it's always a blessing and a beacon of hope when you see somebody else do what you're doing as it pertains to parenting, and you see somebody actually successfully raise a child. Some of you may be struggling right now with your teenager, and you need that beacon of hope. So here it is. Here it is. Make sure you connect with your favorite author and grab that publication so you can have that as a tool, a strategic tool to help you in your journey to parenting successful teens and getting them to young adulthood. All right. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get this party started. I want to hear from all of our authors. So, tonight, because the book has been published, we are going to chat it up a little bit about the chapters of the book. Not so much as specifications about it, but enough information to kind of pique your curiosity a little bit more than we did on last week's edition of the Hot Seat. So, here we go. Now, I have the book in hand. Jason Thibodeau, do you by chance have this book somewhere you Gracious, do you by chance have this book somewhere? Mighty goodness. Okay, so my goodness. So we got a few saints that have got the ministry in hand. Okay, so check this out. There was some great chapters in this book, and one of them that kind of not necessarily stuck out to me, but made me think about our parenting journey from a spiritual perspective was Jason Williams. His chapter is called Teens and Spirituality. Now, everybody may not be in Christendom like the vast majority of us. In fact, I think all of us are in Christendom. But some people may not be in Christendom, or you may not be a believer in anything, but you may have a belief in something or someone greater than you. Well, this chapter is for you. This chapter is for you. He taps into that spiritual place of parenting, dealing with teens and helping them to understand that they're more than just a human being. They have a soul and a spirit. So this chapter gets you in tune with that, helps you to tap in with that aspect of parenting. And I love how he has certain things like, do you really know your child? Are you really connected with your child? Are you sure about what you believe? Are you sure about who you are to be able to tap into helping them understand who they are? So Jason Williams, share with us when you got the chapter, Teens and Spirituality. First of all, how did you tackle that chapter? What came to your heart initially when you saw that you were going to be tapping into teens and spirituality?
Well, for me, it was basically my upbringing. I'm a PK. I've been one since the day I was born. And a lot of it stemmed from that, as well as me being a preacher and having to raise my kids. And as I stated even last week, I wasn't a full-time in the home dad, so it made it twice as hard. Mm-hmm. But for my my personal experiences, I kind of built most of it off of that, because growing up in a house where old school mentality was just do what I tell you to do, and you're like, well, why is it this? Why do I always have to do it this way? Does it make me less of a Christian if I don't do it this way? If I do it this way, does it make me a sinner even though I haven't sinned? There are so many variables to spirituality, depending on upbringing, depending on the type of religion that you're in. I try to make it as universal as possible, because I understand this book is not just meant for the Christian. Anybody that picks up this book may need to know how to deal with their child through to get them into whatever spirituality that they believe in. And the realities of life is, a lot of parents think they know their children, and they really don't. They know what their children allow them to know, because their relationship is built off of straight parenting. I've had to learn the hard way in so many different situations where, especially being not a full-time dad, I guess I hate to say that, because I feel like I wasn't there, but I was there. But I wasn't in the home with them 24/7. So not being a full-time, quote unquote, full-time dad, um, I had to figure out ways to convince them that church was cool. It was okay. Because growing up for me, that was all I knew. My parents took us to church and we were there because they were there. There were hundreds of nights where we fell asleep on the pews because that's where they were. We were there until they told us to leave. We had no other choices. We had no other possibilities of doing anything. If they went to church, I don't care what you thought you were going to do that night. You were going to church. Um, but for me and my children, I've never really forced them to church. Growing up as little ones, yeah, they went to church because I went to church. So when they were with me, we went to church. But as they got older and their mothers may not have had them so into church as I was, I had to learn to try to present it in a way where it was okay for them to feel like, well, I don't really want to go. Well, let's talk about it. Let's figure out what are your issues with it. But then at the same time, I always had to prove, just like I do in ministry, period. Um, I tell people all the time, witnessing, to me, your best witness is not what you say out of your mouth. Your best witness is the life you live in front of people, because that teaches them more than what you say. Because you can say you're a Christian all you want to, but when life happens and you present yourself to outside of that Christian context, you've destroyed your witness. Now, if it works like that for people outside of your home, it's 100%, or I would say 200 times more in your home, because they see you when no one else sees you. But when they have that instance of knowing that you are who you say you are in the home and outside of the home, it makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference. It makes it, and I'm glad that you brought that up because, one thing as an educator that student, yeah, and you guys can attest to this, they tell on you. They're gonna tell on you if you're not who you say you are. If you're not doing what you say that you, if you don't behave in a way in which you present to other, oh, the children's ministry, they're gonna tell on you. You ain't gonna be able to hide that one. That's gonna be one lie you ain't gonna be able to hold on to very long because
Right.
they're gonna tell on you. They gonna tell. Thank you so much, Jason, for your contribution to the publication, guys. You guys tap in with Jason Williams. Phenomenal chapter. Definitely very insightful, eye-opening about some things that you may not even be contemplating as it pertains to your child's spiritual journey as a human being. But it's something that for you to consider, for you to definitely consider for your children. It's wonderful to start them early, but it's incredible if you can catch them before they leave your house. Period. Period. And so next up, I want to tap into something very interesting, another chapter that I found interesting. I found all the chapters to be interesting, and I love it because everybody that wrote in the publication, their voice is super clear in their content. When I say clear, I mean crystal clear in their content and their approach to writing the publication. I know that Gracia and I have had the honor and the privilege to be able to tap into all of the content in the publication. I think Lady Victoria has also been able to tap into all of the content. And it's just stellar. It's pristine information. The tools, the tips, and strategies inside of the publication are priceless and very valuable to the journey as parents. So I want to tap into the next chapter that I thought was interesting. And there's a significant story in here about the Sinclair family. And it is something very, very interesting. Lady Victoria, she graced us with chatting about teens in broken homes, teens in broken homes. She gives us a clear, defining moment about what that even means. What does it really mean when you say teens in broken homes? And she kind of breaks it down and narrows it down to where we can really, really understand what that really is and how that really affects teenagers. And so she shares with us an interesting story about this family called the Sinclairs. So Lady Victoria, tell us a little bit about this family that is featured in your chapter.
Yes, the Sinclair family. The kind of everyone looks at and admires. Everyone knows them because of just the kind of people that they are. Their lives are together, upper middle class family. Both parents are in the home, three children are in the home, and they're just tightly knit. And this family also has a spiritual component because they're believers, they're Christians. And so the family, the husband and wife have raised their children to lean into their faith. But sometimes brokenness, when you go through brokenness, it can have such an impact on your life until you find it very, very difficult to come out of the place that you find yourself in when your family is broken. And brokenness in family structure doesn't just affect one person. Everyone that lives inside that home is affected by it. And so oftentimes we see brokenness as families that are divorced, or parents that are separated, or children that are born out of wedlock. And so they live with one parent and they visit another parent, or the other parent is absent, or they're there some of the time and not enough of the time, whatever the scenario is. And so we look at broken families from that perspective. But brokenness can occur in so many different ways. It doesn't just have to do with families that are divorced or families that are separated. Sometimes the family as a whole can be a part of a trauma that one member of the family sustains, but then it has a trickle effect to everyone in that family. And so everyone trying to deal with it individually and dealing with it collectively sometimes becomes so burdensome until the trauma gets buried and you don't completely heal from it. So you have to look at why those things happen. Why does trauma happen that way, and why does it affect people that way? The trauma can be because of financial reasons. Perhaps the family isn't making sufficient income to sustain their family size. Perhaps they're gainfully employed, but it's for short periods of time. So it's not consistent. There may be mental illness that a family member is going through, and that everyone has to suffer through as they go through that process of trying to heal from. There could be physical conditions and limitations that a family member has that the entire family takes part in. And so there are various reasons why families may be broken. Sometimes families are broken simply because someone said so. Someone's told them that they're broken. And so when people tell you things and it's someone that you look up to, someone that you admire, you believe what they tell you. And sometimes it just becomes a part of our being because we've decided to take in what that person said and not look at our own situation and evaluate it closely enough to understand what's really going on. Sometimes the brokenness occurs and other people can't see it. You and your family are the only ones that knows that you are in a broken condition. But because of your name, because of your status, because of who you are in society, you put the cover up. You put the cover up and no one can see that. But what it does to the family internally, trying to keep all of that under wraps and to keep it from leaking out, so much to say, to become public information in your social circles, with your extended family, with your best friend, people that you normally would share things with, but you don't in that situation because it affects more than you. And talking about it may mean the bringing down of the family name, the crumbling of perhaps their finances, or whatever the situation is. So when it's like that, you're broken, but you're hidden and no one knows it. And that hurts more. That causes more pain. That causes more dysfunction within the family. That causes a breakdown in the family unit. It could be a breakdown of communication because no one's talking to each other. We all know that we're hurting and we're in pain, but we're not talking about it. You don't seek professional help. And I don't know why in the African American families, and I'm sure that this happens in other, races as well. Sometimes we don't tend to seek out the professional help that we need. And so that can be a catalyst for further breakdown of the family structure because no one is going towards healing, but instead we find ourselves nestled in this place of discomfort, nestled in brokenness, and then it becomes our lifestyle. Then it becomes our norm. And we grow up, the children grow up, the teens oftentimes are the ones that are affected by it even more so than the parents might be, or the other adult or older children might be. So when that happens and you grow up and you marry what you know. You look for that you're comfortable with. And so being comfort in dysfunction causes you to seek that out unknowingly. You don't know it at first. You don't know it at first, but the heart speaks to the heart. And so when that's what you find yourself doing, you find yourself seeking that level of dysfunction or discomfort, and that's how you're going to live your life. And then they pass it on to their children and so on and so on and so on until someone decides it's time to break the cycle and come out of this dysfunction, recognizing it for what it is, calling it what it is. It might be more than depression. It might be more than that. It might be more than finances. So if it requires that you get professional help or that you seek additional training to sharpen your skills or to learn another skill or another trade to add to what you have so that you can increase the income that you're bringing in for your family, then that's what you must do. But oftentimes when we're not taught that, we don't know to do that, or we catch on later in life. And sometimes by then, so much of the damage has already been done until it seems irreparable. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. You can seek counseling, you can seek prayer, you can talk to spiritual leaders that are qualified to counsel you in that area. Just because you're a spiritual leader does not mean that you're automatically qualified to counsel someone in that area. So seek the professional help that you need, whatever form it comes in, because you being whole and you being complete is the best thing that you can do for yourself and for your family.
I love it. I love it. That's Lady Victoria. She is connected with us. She did Teens and Broken Homes. So definitely tap into her, connect with her about getting your autographed copy of the book. So she's doing Teens and Broken Homes, phenomenal chapter. So we're going to move on to our next author. We definitely want to make certain that we stay on pace for the timing for the celebration tonight, as everyone is on different coasts of the world, and we want to make sure that we stay on target so we can get out of here on time tonight. So Jason Tibnibs, I call him Tibnibs, but his name is Jason Thibodeau. Jason Thibodeau's chapter is very, very interesting, and I kind of really was wondering how he was going to dive into this as it pertains to teens and sexuality. Teens and sexuality. So
Mm.
he did a phenomenal job of tapping into this, and I was surprised. I like the way that he broke it down as far as how this all happens, and he talks candidly about the part that all of us would love, love, love to see is that our children wait for it. But then he taps more into, well, if they don't wait for it, what do we do if they really don't wait for it? So, with that being said, this is Jason Thibodeau, and he did teens and sex. So, Jason, tell us a little bit about your chapter.
Well, first background. I am a girl dad, so of course,
Lord.
most people would automatically figure that it's going to be a slighted chapter. You know what I mean? Saying that I have.
Actually, it wasn't. You did. This was well rounded. It was very
Right.
well rounded.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's actually what I was going for because I just honestly feel that I would.
Did he freeze?
Frozen.
Wow. He liked the movie Frozen, huh? Wow. Well, hopefully he can get unfroze. In the meantime, we're going to head to Latrice while Jason gets unfrozen. He was just like, it just said, And I'm like, what happened? So hopefully he'll be able to come back, guys, because I know he was getting ready to give us a wonderful share. So we have another fantastic author. And of course, I got my little bragging rights now officially. We have been across the water. We've been across the water. And I'm actually excited about how she brought her chapter together and shared with us so many interesting things about the mind. And, she is a coach in that particular capacity as far as the mind, body, and spirit. And I love how you broke this down when you were talking about the battlefield of the mind and talking about the things that we have to deal with from the mental space as it pertains to our healing, if you will, for children. The mental space that they have to deal with. Her chapter is teens and no parents. Teens and no parents. And that can be a very, very difficult journey for a young person to be parentless. When you think about parentless children, we're also talking about children that have been adopted. They were without parents. They were adopted by someone, but they still were left parentless in order to be adopted by another family. And so that can have a very adverse effect on a child in so many, in a myriad of different ways. And I love how you brought this chapter to life. So kudos to you on bringing this one to life. Latrice, tell us a little bit about your chapter, Teens and No Parents.
Thank you for that, Koffe. I appreciate it. So that chapter for me was very interesting, and it was I felt like I was led to it because a little background about me is that I was raised in a single parent home. I was raised with a giving and a caring mother, and one of the things that she always did was open up her home, right, to every and anybody who she was able to help. So I was not only faced with just seeing a very observant child being able to see what life is on both spectrum of someone who's living without their parents and who's also living, going from home to home, being foster children, and in that sense. So I was able to, I would say, mimic or even absorb a lot of the challenges so many of the children, so many of who I call family, who were going through in those times, the emotional battles. And in my childhood and in myself as well, I went through the battlefield of the mind. And a lot of the things that I went through, I said it's not about me. It's bigger than me, right? So I was just blessed to be able to see through the eyes of other children by even experiencing some of the challenges, and I didn't know then. But fast forward to now, I'm able to unpack those things by not only being empathic, but empathetic and sympathetic about it all, but really understand it from both spectrum and being able to connect and really unfold the challenges on both spectrum as a parent, as a child, as a parent who's missing their child, how to open the doors of communication, to have healthy boundaries and healthy communications, and just really breaking down the steps on how to, build that healthy relationship. In my chapter, I did break down, the ABCs of having that healthy relationship with parent and child during these transitioning in our life, because it's truly a transition. And as we're learning together, as we're growing together, I have to emphasize on having that open dialogue of communication, because a lot of things we don't know what's going on in our mind. We don't know the preconceived notion, the conditioning notion from where, things are developed in our child, as Lady V has mentioned before, the things that we're battling, the things that a lot of parents don't even know that their child are going through. It's so important that we are able to have those open lines of communication, that safe haven, so to speak, that we feel, not giving that intimidation, but that open slate where, you know, we're open to receive and give the level of communication for healthy boundaries, and learning how to set those, and not being afraid to have those wise counselors available and be willing to, you know, accept them into your life to give you the tools, the systems, the strategies. So this book is, you know, everything that you need to start, you know, the foundation of working out many areas in our lives. As you know, the book is covered in so many different areas. I believe this book is that tool that you're definitely going to need to, you know, just open that guidelines to walk you through.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Latrice. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing your story and being so transparent with us about your experience and how that experience helped to birth the chapter that you wrote. And I didn't know anything about everybody's life until like right at the time where we got in there and said, okay, we're gonna put this person here, this person there. And it was so interesting how it just all came together so amazingly without us having a whole I mean, like crazy. I didn't know about Chandra in that capacity. I never seen anything about her in that capacity. Gregory, I didn't know. I mean, I literally did not know. And that's what made it so much more effective and so much more beautiful, that it was authenticity at its finest, authentic, raw truth. And it's just a
Thank you.
beautiful combination. Absolutely incredible. So Jason Tibnibs, you're out of the Frozen Ministries. You went into
Yeah.
acting. You went into acting. I think you were letting us see some of your acting skills.
No, that was not what I was trying to do. This is one of the first times I forgot and left my phone connected to the internet. And because of so, I ended up losing my internet connection and everything froze. So I'm not sure at what point I disappeared there. So
You disappeared at the start of it all.
at the start, okay, well, I don't want to impede on anybody else's time because I know we're time limited. So I'll keep it very brief. Basically, the way I attacked my chapter is, well, for one, anybody who knows me knows that I don't have a problem talking about much of anything, pretty darn transparent. Sometimes can tell too much information.
My Lord.
So I tried to keep everything high level and basically, why y'all laughing at me? But basically, try to keep everything high level and attack it from the point of your subconscious mind. And what I mean by that is all of the different influences that we're around every day that actually causes not just the parent to have these certain urges, but also the teen. So as a parent, a lot of times we're like, well, we're looking at certain content on TV, listening to the radio and everything else. It goes in one ear and out the other because either we're listening to the beat or that's just the kind of music or shows that we like to watch or listen to. And not realizing that while we might just be listening to the beat, your teenager is actually listening to the words, and there's a lot of influence in these words where everything is sexually charged. A lot of TV shows now sexually charged, to where it's not like watching The Lion King anymore, where things just go over the kids' heads. They're actually catching everything that's in these shows now, and actually at times they're catching it more than the parents. So like I said, just keep it high level and brief. I attacked everything from a subconscious mind standpoint. And because of that, hopefully it'll open up your eyes and you'll understand why your teen might be acting a particular way or leaning a certain way when it comes to sexual activity.
And you know something, that that is so it's so critical that we as parents pay attention to how we're behaving and what we're doing in the presence of our children. And like you said, sometimes we thinking like, I'm just jamming to this. They not in here right now. They can't hear whatever, whatever, but they're ear shy of the exposure to it. And next thing you know, we're trying to figure out why they're acting certain ways in around certain people and certain reasons. You're like, what is going on with you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they've had exposures that you didn't even realize came directly through you. And you didn't even realize that it was you that initiated that exposure, not even thinking about it, not even, realizing like, oh my God, I'm the one that put my child in this. I put them in a place where I would have never intentionally done it and didn't even realize it. Now here it is. I have to deal with something from what I did, not even realizing I did it.
Right. And if you're not careful and you're not paying attention to what's going on, when you try to address that behavior, now all of a sudden you seem hypocritical.
Very true. Extremely true. And y'all know teenagers will check you. They will check you on your hypocriticisms. They will hit you real hard with that. And back when we were in our yesteryears, of course, we really couldn't check our parents, but we told our friends about what they did. We
Mm-hmm.
definitely told our friends, I can't believe, my mom's supposed to be this and that, and she that fizz. But you better not say it to their face.
Yeah, Uncle Charlie come by that ain't really the uncle and stuff.
Come listen in the okay. All right, on to the next. All right, let's go on to the next one. We don't want to call nobody out but Uncle Charlie and Uncle Bill and Uncle Calvin. It's like, why Uncle Calvin always come over here and be in your room, Mama? I'm trying to
And that's
understand
not Charlie Wilson.
Listen here.
Yeah,
Listen
they
here.
had a prayer session.
We're not even gonna tap that, Lady Victoria. I'm not messing with that tonight. Chandra, just shake it all out. We're not testifying in the church one way or the other for that one, okay? All right. So we're moving on to the next phenomenal thought leader from this project. And I absolutely loved her chapter because I could hear her saying some of her sub chapters in there. Did I do as I say, not as I do? It's almost like I could hear her saying that in her in some of the subheaders from Gracious chapter. Her chapter is on parenting and communication. Teens and communication. I'm sorry, teens and communication. And the cool part about her chapter is when y'all see the subheaders, you're gonna be like, this is really dope. She put in there sugar and spice, but not always nice. One of her subheaders. So it was really, really cool to read through what you were talking about as it pertained to parenting and communication. The frogs and snails and definitely male is what got me. Frogs and snails and definitely male. That's what got me. Gracious, share with us a little about your chapter.
My mic seriously wants to stick, y'all.
Listen
But my chapter is on communicating with teens. I personally have the honor of being a mom to both a female child and 3 male children. And the thing that we have to remember most, I know for me, is I remember when I was growing up, sometimes I felt like my mother was actually talking at me instead of talking to me. And I feel like sometimes as parents, we tend to get into that mode, and our children, they don't learn anything from it. If anything, it just makes them not want to listen to us at all. I love how you were talking about my chapters, Koffe. It explains different ways that I actually communicate with my children, because not only are they different genders, but a thing that I think that we forget as parents sometimes is that each child has a different personality. And the way that you parent one is not going to work with the other. I have 2 children who are very outgoing and boisterous and opinionated, but then I have 2 children who are very reserved, and they've always been that way. And the way that I communicate with them is very different. My daughter and I, we actually had a couple of hiccups when she was growing up as far as our communication and the ways that we communicated. So much so sometimes that it was very, very hard for me to communicate with my daughter. I feel like the way that I was communicating with her was not working, which would make her not want to listen to me at all. But as we grew, both of us, because I will, tell everybody, for the people who don't know, like I had my daughter when I was 1 month shy of 20 years old. So right at the end of being 19. And so she and I actually kind of grew up together in that space. And it was a learning process for me in the ways to communicate with her. We always get a little bit better the older we get. So as my sons came along, I feel like that I had grown in the communication space a bit. But again, they all require different ways to communicate. Sometimes we would love to believe that it's just going to be an across the board thing, but it's not. Even though they may have similar personalities, each person is different. And in my chapter, I just wanted to encourage people to find out the actual way of communicating with your child, the way that works for that child. Because I could tell Brianna something and I could tell Chris something. Chris gets it and understands it, and Brianna's like, she doesn't even know what I'm talking about. And if my kids are watching this, they'll more like to say, why she got to give her names. But
That's what I was just sitting here thinking.
Right, those are my kids. But just to make it fair, my other two kids are Cameron and Khalil, so everybody's names I call. But my children are very funny that way. And I will let you know, because of the way that I have communicated with my children, which, much like Jason said, I've always pretty much had an open communication with my daughter and my sons, to the point where they tell me any and everything. Some things that I don't ever wish to know. But I'm happy that that they feel, comfortable enough sharing it with me. And the way that I communicated with them as children has really, you know, grown and matured into the way that we communicate as adults. Because the most fun that I have in life is whenever I get all of my children together. Because we have a great understanding amongst us as a family, and it's awesome. And I know that it all came from the way that I communicated with them when they were children.
I love it. I love it. You know, when you were talking, when you said their names, I was like, do she? Cameron go?
Not
Brianna
even, not
go?
even, not even Cameron. Brianna's gonna be like, I know she
Brianna?
didn't just call my name on the live.
That's what I was saying, thinking like. And let me tell you, Gracia and Brianna are our first mother-daughter team that published a project. And I can just see her facial expression right now, like, really? Why?
But
Why?
Brianna will soon know, as she will be a mother herself in 3 weeks. She will soon find out what it's like.
Very true. It don't take long. It really doesn't.
It does not.
Thank you so much for that, Gracia. As you guys heard, she's doing teens and communication. So definitely tap in with Gracia, connect with her, get the copy. If she resonates with you, tap in and get that autographed copy sent out to you. I'm telling you, you will not regret what you will receive from these publications. And so next up, we have Gregory Bloomfield. Gregory's chapter is the one that kind of pulled at, it's going to pull at your heartstrings. I'm going to tell you right now. So just deal with it. It's gonna get you. It's really gonna get you. But it is a great chapter. It's teens and divorce. Teens and divorce. And Gregory shares not only from a global perspective about teens and divorce, but he shares his personal journey that he went through in a dissolved marriage and being on the other side of that as a dad, and what he's doing and striving for excellence, being a great father to his children. And of course, happy Father's Day again to y'all again. I know Father's Day is gone, but it's Father's Day every day. It's like it's Mother's Day every day. You know what I mean? So I just definitely really, Gregory, would love for you to share with us just a snippet of what you said in your chapter, without, of course, giving away the tips and the tools and the great nuggets that you put in here. But I really honestly do love it. One of the parts of your chapter that really stuck out and resonated with me was the one where you talked about help yourself. When it came to parenting and dealing with divorce, you talked about get you what you need to be able to be a solid parent for your children as they have to deal with the brunt of what happened between you and your spouse. So, Gregory, share with us about your chapter.
Sure. Thank you so much. I can honestly say that I wish this book was around 15 years ago when I was going through my own divorce, because the lessons that I talk about in the chapter, I learned the hard way. And hopefully, by somebody reading this, they don't have to go through the hard way and they can actually go through the easier way, if there's such a thing when it comes to divorce. I think one of the most important nuggets to take away without giving away too much is that it's really important that you love yourself, and divorce doesn't define you. It doesn't. A lot of people, especially in the church, they love to put a stigma or a scarlet letter because your marriage broke up. They want to know, well, what happened? Well, where did you screw up? All this type of stuff. And all these people will chat and talk about you behind your back. And it is a stigma. It's a failure. It's a death. But it can be the beginning of something beautiful in your life. I can honestly say that the divorce that happened to me forced me in the long run to be a better father. And it forced me to give my kids extra love because I couldn't take anything for granted. My kids didn't live with me. They lived with me every other weekend and 2 weeks in the summer. So I had to be very intentional. I had to be very deliberate because I didn't want to be a deadbeat dad because I didn't have a deadbeat dad. So one of the things to which people will really like about the chapter that I wrote about parenting and divorce, especially with teens, is that it's really important for you to realize that love is not a noun, it's a verb. You have to show love. You can say it all you want to, but your kids will always say, like my kids will say, talk is cheap. So you can say it all you want to, but if you're not, here's the word, consistent with your love by your showing up and calling, and people think you've done your job when you cut that check every week or every 2 weeks. Yeah, money is good. You need to have money to pay your bills and for the children to eat and have clothes. But it's deeper than that. What are you doing emotionally? Are you there at their games? Do you know their teachers? Do you go to their church events? Are you active with them when they come to your house? Are you just playing Nintendo and video games and let them just be by themselves? Or are you active and getting to know them and talking and having meals together? And that's some of the things I wanted to share. Like another very practical tip is, as opposed to ordering pizza for your kids, why not get the ingredients at the supermarket and make a pizza together with your kids? That builds memories. And that's some of the things that I did. Rather than going to Pizza Hut's going to get their money. But go to the little shop and stop for $10 and get some crust and some cheese and some peppers or whatever, and then build a pizza together and eat it together. And even if it tastes horrible.
I was gonna say, I was hoping you were gonna get to that part.
Yeah, even if it tastes
we
horrible.
did that when I was a child. I was like, this ain't.
Like when my mother used to say, you don't need to go to McDonald's. We're going to make McDonald's here. We're going to have McDonald's at the house. And even though it wasn't the same, but
Right.
she tried. But, I think what happened is that you build a memory. And those are the things that your children will remember. So I just wanted to encourage people with the chapter number 4. Those of you who are going through a divorce, been through a divorce, I think you'll really, really, really enjoy this chapter. It blessed me to write it, and hopefully it'll bless you too. Thank you.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And you're right. It did create a memory because I just thought about that pizza. I was like that. I mean, it was fun. It was fun tearing up the stuff in the kitchen and.
Hey, at the Thibodeau house, them pizzas are good. So I don't know what you talking about.
Well, you gonna say that because you are the Thibodeau spearheader. You in charge of operation.
No, the misses. I just stack it up real high, but it comes out pretty good. I'm just saying.
I'm gonna ask Chrissy
I
about it.
agree, Mr. Gregory. Great memories.
I'm gonna ask Mrs. Thibodeau. I'm gonna ask Chrissy about it. I'm not taking your word for that. I'm talking to Chrissy.
I can call in here.
No. I'm gonna call her personally.
Oh.
No. I'm gonna call her personally. I got a number. I know how to call her. I know how to reach her. Matter of fact, I'm gonna talk to her tomorrow. We got some things to talk about tomorrow. I'll talk to her tomorrow. I love it. I absolutely love it. So Dr. Adrienne Woods and Janiqua Lachey were not able to be with us on tonight, but Dr. Woods' chapter is on teens and violence, and Janiqua's chapter is on teens and self-esteem. Really, really good chapters, especially for those who are in the public school system. Both of them are educators, and you can tell from their content that they're in the educator space. And you'll be able to kind of resonate with it as a parent as to what happens behind the scenes when it comes to teens directly in the school setting. So you get some more detailed specifics on that from their chapters. But back to Gregory, if you resonated with Gregory and his information that he shared spoke to you, definitely connect with him, hop in, chat with them, and snatch that publication. Get your autographs, copy from Gregory Bloomfield. He is the one that did Teens and Divorce. Next up on the platform for tonight, of course, and certainly not least, is Chandra Denon. She did Teens and Pregnancy. Teens and Pregnancy, shared her heart and soul in this chapter. It's a lot of heartstrings that will be pulled between Gregory's chapter and Chandra's chapter. So I want you to govern yourself accordingly for the tissue ministries, because I mean, when you read it, you like, oh my Lord, oh my God. And I love it because one of her sub chapters is My Truth, and she shares some great details about her actual experience firsthand dealing with parenting from a teenager's lenses. And so it's a very powerful share. And I love the tips and the tools that she gives on here. And then the conclusion of the whole matter is the successful rearing of her children and them being some phenomenal adults in their own right. So that is impressive and a blessing at the same time to be able to do so. So Chandra, share with us a bit about your chapter.
Well, good evening, everyone. I will say that, yeah, I went back and read my chapter today. Actually, I had not read it since I wrote it. And went back today and read it actually just before getting on. And I thought it was funny. I was reading and holding my breath the whole time that I was reading, and I was the one that wrote it. So I'm like, what is this? But it was the first time that I have shared details about a teenage pregnancy. I was a teen mom. I had my first son when I was 15 years old. A little bit of my background is that I'm a pastor's daughter. In the good old Pentecostal upbringing. So
my Lord, we were talking about the church before we came on tonight.
The Church of God in Christ rearing. That's what I was raised in, and so just the dynamic of being a middle class, well-to-do parents in the community. My dad's a pastor. I was the oldest child. I had two younger brothers, and at 15, I was pregnant. And that was a huge shift in our family dynamic. Not only did it impact my life, but it impacted the lives of everyone that was in the house, because it was as if now we had a fourth child in the house. And my son's dad was not present, but he had male figures in his life that molded him, and we often say that he was everybody's baby, that everyone had a hand in his rearing, and he and I practically grew up together. So parenting started very early. I was a parent at 15 years old and didn't quite understand how I got there. And I talked a little bit about that in the book. We were not it was not a thing to educate your children on sexual matters as it is now. Our children know more than we know in some instances, but in that time, it was just not very, it was not a subject that was talked about a lot, especially in the church. And then also there was some sexual trauma that had happened in my life prior to that that impacted the behaviors and how I coped with things. And the combination of the two of those um, led us to a very interesting situation. So I share about my journey and what I would love for parents of teenagers, teen moms, to take away from the experience, and how to love them through that decision, how to love them through that situation. And just ironically, the night that I was writing the chapter was my son's 31st birthday. So I had him when I was 15 years old, and we were celebrating his 31st birthday the day that I submitted that chapter. And he is a thriving, successful, contributing adult. And I say all the time that we beat statistics, that both of us beat the statistics of what could happen. So in the book, I do share a lot of the statistics that are out there and where we could have ended up had we fed into the statistics. But resilience, tenacity, and just a drive to not be the total of that decision that was made on August the 20th, 1990.
My God.
In my life. So that's what my chapter is about. I hope that it blesses. And just, the last line of that chapter is just to be kind and love. Love really does get us through a lot of situations, through a lot of things, and support the family, not just the teen mom, but support the family. And then that support is still needed after the child gets there. Because at 15, I'm like, okay, what do I do now? I remember birthing my child in the hospital and looking over in the bassinet, like, what in the world do we do from this point? Well, we went home. Well, what do I do now? And just the role of parenting does not come with a manual. No one tells us chapter 1, do this, chapter 2, do that. So imagine a 15-year-old developing within myself and now trying to figure out how to develop a child. Thank you for the opportunity. And it was very therapeutic for me. Like I said, I never even connected the dates. It's so funny that August the 20th, 1990, and I referenced in the book how I was able to pinpoint it to that day. But it was also my youngest brother's birthday. And before writing this chapter, I had no idea that that was the family event that was taking place on that day, as well. So it's an interesting dynamic of how it all came together, and why I can remember that date so vividly, not being my brother's birthday, but another instance, another thing that happened that really tied that date or solidified that date in my mind. But it was a very therapeutic chapter, and I hope that it really does help and bless moms, teen moms. You're not the sum of your decision, and that is not the end of the world. And you can go on and thrive, and your child can thrive as well.
Amen. Amen. It's funny. August 20th, 1999 was my daughter's conception, my oldest daughter. So when you said that, I was like, what in the ham fat is going on in here? That is wild. Yep, August 20th of 1999 was when my daughter was conceived. So that is wild. That is so wild. Those days, it's amazing. It is amazing. Sometimes we forget the day of conception, but sometimes it's something that's etched in your memory for the balance of your human days. And it's so deep to think about, from that moment when that child is birthed in your womb to that moment when that child manifests in the earth, and all the things that come along with that. It's a lot. It's interesting, and it is a lot. It really, really is. But children, always remember that children are an inheritance from God. And I tell people all the time that, children, it no matter how they arrived in the earth, they are an inheritance from God, and God is the one that opens and shuts a womb. God is the one that assigns the ability for us to be able to procreate. And they are actually a gift from God. They are actually a gift. So no matter whatever happened for them to manifest, always remember that children are a gift from God and they come to us in and through us. And they are our assignment. They are our assignment. And so it is with great honor that we share this project with you. If Chandra connected with you, if she resonated with you, please tap into her, connect with her. Go ahead and grab that link from her page, and just get that book and get that autograph signature from her and the share of her life. And so kudos to everyone on this project. Such heartfelt shares and so much amazing information about family and parenting, and the ability and the power to get children through teen years. We're not saying that it's going to be an easy journey, but with the proper tips, the proper tools, and the proper strategies in place, and that thing called a village, you will be able to manifest some phenomenal young adults. You will be able to do it. It just will take that work and that, like she said, tenacity, that endurance, that persistence to be able to make that come to pass. So, with that being said, we're at the end of our journey on tonight. We're just a few minutes over. We knew we'd probably go over just a tad bit for the official release. But we're so thankful to each and every one of you that actually went in and purchased the project. For those of you that have said that you're still going to purchase it, we thank you in advance for going ahead and making that decision to grab that publication. Somebody just texted me just right now and said, "Hey, send me the link. I'm listening to you guys, and I want to go ahead and snatch it." So we thank you. We honestly, we really do thank you. Without you guys, there would have been no us. So we thank you, and we appreciate each and every one of you tapping in for tonight's segment. After we get off the live stream, the thought leaders will be putting their information inside of the chat. That way you can click directly on the person, the author that you want to grab the publication from. You can click directly on their link to be able to go to their page and grab that publication so you'll have it. All right. So we will see these incredible authors in the future. I am certain of that. And we thank you all for tapping in and tuning in on tonight. And we appreciate you just being here with us to hear their hearts on the project. And I cannot wait for you guys to read it. Once you actually read it, you ingest it, please go to Amazon.com and give them a 5-star review for the publication. It helps us to keep them on the bestsellers list, and it helps to keep that book very, very visible to the universe. So we can definitely keep that publication visible so people can see it. When they pull up parenting, we want that to be one of the first projects that they have the opportunity to see. So snatch it from your favorite author, but go in and do the review on Amazon and give them the kudos, that badge of honor that they earned. They earned the best-selling badge. They earned it. They worked hard for it. So definitely give them that review. Show your love for their work. All right, everybody. So thank you again for being on with us for this week's edition of the Hot Seat, our author's edition. Again, thank you to each and every author that shared with us their heart, their gift, and their talent in this book. We appreciate you guys so much. So until next time, grace, peace, and blessings be to all you all. And remember to grab the information from the chat. As soon as we come out the live, they'll be posting that in there. Good night, everybody. And we'll see you all next week for another edition of the Hot Seat. Grace, peace, and blessings to everybody. And I don't know what I just did. I just kicked us out of the studio some kind of way. So I got to find the studio thing. Oh, there it goes. Good night, everybody. God bless. We'll see y'all again soon.